Success Insight shares the stories of the people with passion and drive who make things happen in the world. Here's your host, Howard Fox.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Coaching and Consulting Insight Series on the Success Insight podcast. The Coaching and Consulting Insight Series introduces you to coaches and consultants that work with professionals, managers, leaders, and organizations to perform at their full potential. Our guest today is Jenny Toh. Jenny is a professional life coach and founder of River Life Coaching. She helps introverted female lawyers define and achieve professional success on their own terms. Jenny, welcome to the Coaching and Consulting Insight Series on the Success Insight podcast.
Hi, Howard. I'm really excited to be on your show. I'm glad I made the short list to be one of your guests.
Oh, man, you make it sound like this is an exclusive club. No, you're part of the exclusive club because this is a great podcast, and I hope it comes across that you're going to have a good time here. You're a part of I had a great time on this podcast club.
Oh, okay. That's great. I am really excited, Howard.
Fantastic. Now, for our listeners, I've kind of alluded to this in the past. Many of our guests are not actually residing in the U.S., and neither is Jenny. So, Jenny, where are you right now?
I am living in Singapore. I was originally born and raised in Malaysia, and Howard, I married a Singaporean, which is why I'm here. So I've been in Singapore for close to 2 decades now. And my first career is as a practicing lawyer. I was a litigation, so a court attorney for a large number of years. And then I moved on to be a derivatives legal counsel. So that's my, what I normally lightly call it my intellectual passion. I'm not saying that coaching is not intellectual, but you know how it is, Howard, being a fellow coach. Coaching is a very holistic profession. I think it covers all aspects of your client's lives. I find that my intellectual career is in law. I still do legal consulting because I like that part of it. But my heart passion is in coaching. And like you, I am an ICF, so International Coaching Federation credentialed coach. I am a life coach because I believe that, you can't really separate all aspects of our life and classify it as, career, business. It's your life. So I believe in that holistic approach. That's why I went to life coaching. And on a more personal note, as you can hear from my the angle I'm going. So being a lawyer is very head-based and coaching is very heart-based. I'm a Christian, so I believe that God has put this purpose in my heart to be a life coach at this juncture in my life. It didn't come easy. God actually planted this desire in 2015, but probably that's too long a story to go into here. I ran away from it, and it was only around December 2018, the time of Christmas and reflection, that I sat down with my husband and I told him, I need to do this because I cannot shake this feeling anymore. It's too much. It actually gets to the extent that it was so uncomfortable that if I thought about coaching and I dismissed it, I really get this sense of discomfort.
You were getting that angst in your stomach, so to speak.
Okay, some people say it's angst. For me, it was a grief, which I have shared before with fellow peers. I didn't understand it. I didn't even start my business yet. I didn't even train as a coach yet. But the idea of I'm not going to do coaching brought about this great sense of grief. So it's like losing something that I didn't even have in the beginning. So it was so weird.
Sure.
That, yes, I had to challenge my intellectual rationalization and say, I got to do this. So long story short, I launched my business, Howard, at the peak of the pandemic because of walking in faith. I told God, okay, COVID is upon us. I launched it in April last year. But it's been going well. I mean, as you know, with any businesses, ups and downs. But I think right now, this year, reflecting back, I'm at a good place. But of course, I'm speaking to you in this podcast to let your listeners know that reach out to a coach. It doesn't have to be me, but if you feel like you're stuck, reach out to a coach because there are so many of us out there. But reach out to a credentialed coach, Howard.
Right? There's a lot of coaches out there, and I wholly agree. A credentialed coach, whether it's the ICF,
yes,
EMCC, and I know there's a couple other coaching bodies. Jenny, I've got a question. You started to have this feeling that, again, grief, something's missing, something you need, however you would describe that. Was this an event? Did somebody cross your path? Where did this feeling start to bubble up from? I am curious about that.
But I wouldn't say there was one turning point. It's just that in 2015, I was a mid-level manager. I had people under me. The organization put me through a 2-day crash course coaching program so that I can be a better manager. And that was when I was first bitten by the bug.
Ah, okay.
So it was then that I honed my coaching skills in the workplace. But as you know, being a manager and doing coaching is different because your direct reports are very cautious with you. They know that you're going to be writing their performance evaluation, right? So it doesn't come out as transparent, and they tend to put up a front as well. So that's when it all first started.
Okay.
I have this innate ability to really empathize with people. And with the coaching training and now, being a coach for over 2 years, I am able to be empathetic, but at the same time, still being really centered myself, because I'm sure counselors also face the same issue. If they are too caught up in the client's situation, then they are not doing their clients a service as well.
Sure. So I've got a question. So if you were just because you are who you are, having conversations with your staff, other members on the team, how did you begin to build that trust with them? Because and the reason I'm asking this is do you know who David Clutterbuck is?
Yes.
Okay, so David Clutterbuck wrote an article. I posted it up on LinkedIn a week or two ago, and he actually talked about the subject of in-house coaching, especially can a manager be a coach? I don't remember the exact title. I'll provide a link to it and put it in the show notes. And you're right. To be a manager as a coach is a very tricky dance, because at the end of the day, you're responsible for not only the work getting done, but writing up appraisals, reprimands, etc. How did you begin to chip away at that and also begin to delve into the coach training and build that, dare I say, trust with your staff to be able to coach them and them feeling like, Jenny, she cares about us?
Yeah, good question, Howard. And I think the answer, when I say it, sounds so simple, but it's tough. It's just to be authentic. It's just to be who you are. So I tell my direct reports that, what are the things I can share to them, like, HR policies and things like that. And what is really, I am not able to change, because, sometimes they ask me, they want to be promoted, right? But if that it's not their time, I'm honest with them. So they're not happy, but they know that, with the conversations with me, that Jenny is always honest with a situation. If she can help, she would. And if she can't, she will tell you why. So they get that from me. And it's also consistency. So you be an authentic leader and also be consistent, so that, in a way, it's less tiring, because, you won't get caught, by saying something that's not consistent. So it sounds easy, but as all of you know, if you're in an organization, being authentic and being consistent is actually quite challenging.
Sure. Yeah. I have a coaching colleague of mine here in the U.S., and he was on our podcast in the early days back in 2019, and he used this term, being truthful and kind. And I think as a manager, if you are going to have those conversations with your direct report, in order to build that trust, you have to be truthful and kind. And yeah, like you said, that perhaps they want that promotion, but as a manager, they're not ready for it. And you can share that with them, but then you can also give them a path to move forward in as you obviously have done, your availability to continue to work with them. When you went to receive more formal training as a coach, how did you decide what program to go into? And I guess I should ask, how large a presence is the coaching profession and the appreciation of it? How is it in Asia, in a country like Singapore or Malaysia for that matter?
Well, okay, that's a two-pronged question. So I'll answer the first one first, which is more personal.
Okay.
So, Howard, I trained as a lawyer in the UK. So it was very old school, right? University-based with tutors, classrooms. So that was the type of coaching school I was looking for. And there are a lot of good coaching schools in Singapore. It's just that time I was still working full-time as a lawyer. I have 3 kids at home. So the reality of doing night classes is very challenging because of the commitment that I have to sit through classes from 7:30 to 10:30 at night. So it's really not workable because I treasure family time as well. I take good care of my family time. So then I did that brave step of exploring online. This was before COVID, and being trained in a typical English university is very hard to break that mindset. But, so the passion to be a coach was so strong that I went online. And I found a few schools that were credentialed by ICF, and I partnered with this one school, International Coach Academy. It's based in Australia, but they have a global student base and they hold their classes on Zoom, and they proudly declare they've been doing classes on Zoom, way before COVID, I think for the past 5 years or so. And I have a great experience from that because of the global student base. And I'm still in touch with many of my peers there. So that's my own coaching journey. And it's a 18-month program. And I was so passionate about coaching, I accelerated it to less than a year when I obtained my certificate and then moved on to be credentialed. As for the acceptance of coaching in this region, Singapore, Malaysia, Hong Kong, it tends to be more career-based or executive coaching. So being a life coach, I do find it a bit challenging because people are interested, but at the same time, they tell me, Jenny, I'm at a place right now in my life that this is not an urgent thing. It can wait. And it's just getting over that mindset. Why are you putting improving your life or getting your life to a better place on hold? Whereas you wouldn't hesitate as much if it's regarding your career. So people still see career and life as two separate things. But if you really ask yourself, are they really separate? So that's one interesting area to educate people on here. Another one is when I first started going out and telling people I'm a coach, automatically I get this response, Jenny, I am fine. I don't need coaching. So I sense their hesitations or their reluctance because they confuse coaching with counseling. I think that confusion is still prevalent in the US, in some parts of the US as well.
Sure.
So they think that coaching is counseling, and if they are not going through some sort of trauma or hurt, they don't need coaching. So I explained to them that, yes, you need a counselor to get over an emotional hurt and pain and to heal. And after you've healed, you engage a coach to get from good to better. That's the easiest way for me to explain. And then you could see their eyes light up, and some of you could say a little light bulb moment. Then I go back to that challenge, like, okay, you sound great, Jenny, but I think for this kind of issues regarding my life, it can wait because of COVID. So many things are uncertain. And maybe thinking about the investment involved, not that, I'm very expensive, but it's a sad thing. People tend to put improving their life on hold simply because of the uncertainty.
Well, it's interesting. We'll go and invest in an outfit, clothing, a camera lens, but we won't invest in ourselves to be happy and just to have somebody to talk to about our goals and desires and what we want. I'm curious, too, in Singapore, I don't want to label the entire region as one homogenous group of people because each area, Hong Kong, Malaysia, Singapore, et cetera, they have their unique culture.
Yes.
I've learned that from other podcast guests, by the way. Do you find that there's a different type of conversation you would have with someone, both from on a gender perspective, so there's one aspect of the question, or maybe it's age, maturity or state position in the workforce, whether they're at an entry or clerk level or whether they're in a middle management or leadership level? Are there differences at each one of those points?
Howard, that is a loaded question.
I'm sorry, but that's
yeah,
that's my job.
No. Yeah, I know. And it's interesting that you bring it up. But I want to stress to your listeners that everyone is different, as you know, and no coaching relationship fits a cookie cutter, style. And I coach people according to where their need is, as you would, Howard. You really listen to what they need at this point in their life, and we help them see their highest potential. So the first part about gender, yes, I do tend to coach a lot more women simply because of the profession I'm in. They see me as a mentor. So again, I have to explain the difference between mentoring and coaching with them. So mentoring is them asking me, Jenny, you were in my shoes 25 years ago. What would you do when you first start? Would you do the same thing as I'm doing now when I'm first starting up as a lawyer? So that's mentoring. I share my advice, right? So normally I do that to build rapport in the beginning, but before we go into the proper coaching session, I will explain to them that a coach is actually being an accountability partner. What I share, what my wisdom is, may not necessarily gel with you. It's up to you to find out who you truly are and what you want to get out of your career and out of your life. So that's the distinction between mentoring and coaching. So women here, actually the working professionals in general, we're all in this very fast-paced life, climbing the corporate ladder. A bit similar like Hong Kong. I think the pace is almost equivalent now, although people tend to say that Hong Kong is even faster paced. But here in Singapore, it's pretty fast-paced. And the younger professionals, both men and women, feel this pressure, the need to prove themselves, the need to take on so much. And as a result, they don't have anything outside work. And then when they start thinking about, I want to have a relationship, then they're worried that their career suffers. So you can see this nuance tends to be felt by younger women. So I've spoken to several female lawyers who are now thinking about getting married, and they're like, Jenny, but I want partnership as well. So how do I balance that? So it seems like I have to give up one in order to get to the other. There is no easy solution. It's just who you are as a person and what you really want out of life, and your own support structure. And at the end of the day, yes, being a lawyer makes you happy, but does it mean that you want to sell your soul to the profession, which is what a lot of young lawyers are doing? They hardly have any life outside. I hope that the industry is changing, but that is something that's going on there. As for women in general, I think here is possibly working on being more assertive. I'm not saying there are no assertive women in Singapore. There are actually a lot of them, but there's still this area of why do men find it easier to find the jobs that they like, whereas for women we feel that we need to prove ourselves again and again. It could be our own mindset. It could be biases perpetuated by the hiring managers. And unfortunately, some of the hiring managers are women themselves, because those women got to where they are the hard way, the difficult way, of fighting and really proving themselves. They don't make the road easier for the younger ones coming in. So I will pause here because I could go on and on about gender bias issues, but it may be a bit too much. Yeah. So Howard.
It's interesting as you were chatting with that, I was thinking to the nursing profession here in the US. And I mean, the nursing profession right now is completely overwhelmed because of COVID. And even prior to COVID, the training of nurses and it was not a very friendly place, because the folks that the nurses who have been in the profession for an entire career's worth of time, they got through all the trials and tribulations, and they were not going to make it easier for the new nurses coming on. And I don't know, culturally here in the US is, the younger kids, students, nurses, professionals, they tend to want the things handed a little bit sooner and easier than the ones who felt, well, if I had to go through this, you're going to go through this. And it's hard to change that mindset. It's very hard. I'm curious. So now in your LinkedIn profile, you mentioned a lot about introversion. And you actually have a great quote, which I love, by the way, at the bottom of your About section. Quiet is might, solitude is strength, introversion is power, by Lori Helgo, I believe, author of the Introvert Power. And as an introvert myself, I'm curious about this idea of Jenny Toh, the introvert, and how has that served you, or perhaps perhaps been an unintentional roadblock, or because you clearly have overcome it? I mean, you're successful on the legal side. You're building a robust coaching practice, and even though our cameras are off because we're saving bandwidth, I mean, you're somebody that's very easy to talk to, and unfortunately, people think introverts, well, they just don't want to be around people, which is couldn't be farther from the case. But how has the introversion affected your career, on the legal side, but also how is it helping you navigate some of the areas you're going to go into and support your clients with on the coaching side?
Well, I think the misconception that most people have, like what you've touched on just now, is that introverts are antisocial. We don't like people. And another one is that we're shy. So, Howard, I was very shy when I was a child. And of course, I didn't know what introvert was then. So being introverted and being shy, really, I guess as a child, I felt awkward in big classrooms with a lot of rowdy kids. As you know, so there's always those kids who are talking a lot. I tend to have this close-knit group of friends, quieter, not that some of them are extroverts, but I tend to thrive better in smaller groups rather than, going up to the classroom and giving a presentation. So moving on to being a lawyer, I think one of the challenge is really putting myself out there, and I'm a court attorney, so I really have to be out there presenting my case. And I love it because it's intellectually challenging, and I love searching for that solution. And also my legal training has taught me to see the worst possible case scenario and how to address every worst case scenario. So I really find that exciting. At the same time, after a long day in court and the lawyers tend to hang out either for drinks or they go out for coffee, I find that I need to go away to be by myself. And maybe that sort of shows that, Jenny's a bit antisocial. And I didn't understand that. And I felt bad about it. But as I developed myself and did more research on introversion, I realized that introversion means that you get your energy from within. You need that downtime to reflect and to just be with yourself and to quieten down yourself and sort of like analyze how your day went or how that particular incident went. Whereas for extroverts in a party, you really get excited. But after the party ends, you want to hang out with 2-3 friends. I'm not saying that extroverts need to be with hundreds of people all the time, but they want that conversation going with 2-3 close friends, and then it carries on. So I have a friend who said, she loves dinner parties because after that she will hang out with 2 girlfriends to carry on the conversation. Whereas I'll tell her that I really enjoyed myself, but I need to go back home now. So that's the difference of it. So when I coach clients who are introverts, they may not know. Some of them are aware that they're introverts and they see that as a roadblock, like what you say, Howard. They say, I can't be considered for that promotion as opposed to Thomas because he's an extrovert, I'm an introvert. So I make them question themselves. Is it true that the introversion is the only reason that you're holding back? What are your strengths? And how do you get to this role in the first place? And when they start talking about their strengths, their capabilities, then they realize that it's just their own mindset that because I'm an introvert, I'm not being considered. But in this day and age, because we're all working from home and not being physically interacting with each other, being visible is a very common topic that comes up from my coaching clients. They will say, I'm an introvert, Jenny. My boss says I need to be more visible. What do I do? So that's like the trend of that happening. Yeah.
Sure. So let's talk a little bit about your business, River Life Coaching. Your program, is it built on, some methodologies, tools, the conversation? What are some of the areas that you're bringing to your clients when you have these coaching engagements?
Yeah, so my company, River Life Coaching, I actually came up with the name when I was training as a coach, and we were told to write up our coaching model and process. And I thought about it and I prayed about it, and suddenly the image of river came into my mind, and I was asking God, okay, well, what's this about a river? So basically, the signature program that I run is to get clients to rediscover what their values are. A lot of us here in Asia, when I ask them, "Do you know what your values are?" They will say, "Yes, I'm efficient. I'm a strategic thinker. I'm a problem solver." Those are your strengths. But
You're right.
yeah, it's not your values. Then when I share that my value is just honesty. It's just a simple word. They're quite surprised. They're like, "Oh, is that a value?" Then it comes up for them that, oh, their values. What are the simple words that you identify with? And then if you take those words away from your life as it is, how would that feel? If they say, "No, I cannot imagine my life without this," let's just say this idea of teamwork. Some people really collaborate very, very well. If you say that my life doesn't have the word teamwork in it, how does that look? If they get really uncomfortable, that is something they hold on to. It could be as simple as love. So people feel like, oh, okay, isn't this kind of things a bit soft, a bit woo woo, as opposed to the corporate world where I need to say, I'm efficient and all those kind of more professional traits. But my program, I take them to really discover what their values are and how those values have showed up in their lives, both personally and professionally. And then from there, we work on the goals that they want to achieve. So if on a professional front, if their values are not aligned with their goals, they will find that that's why it's so hard going. That's why it feels more like a struggle, a push. And how do you make it easier? So the analogy of the river comes. How is your river flowing? Is it flowing, peacefully and calmly, or are you hitting the rocks all the time, or does it meander all the way? Ultimately, bringing my clients to the river delta, where that is their higher purpose, their higher goal. So there are tools that I use along the way, but the methodology is to see your life as a river and how it flows.
I love that, by the way. And for our listeners, as you all know, I do my research before my calls. And as I was reviewing Jenny's website, I was thinking, man, I love these pictures. I mean, they were so calming. And it's like, so I was excited to kind of hear more about how this metaphor of the river came about. Now, you're also a prolific blogger. And so tell us more about that.
Oh, I love to write. And being an introvert, Harvard, I'm sure you know that, that's why when I asked you at the beginning of this podcast, Howard, we don't need to turn the video on, right? Although we did just to see each other. So that's my way of sharing my voice out there. And I do it as you can, if you've read some of my blogs, it is personal because I share my life experience, and I have 3 kids, and a lot of the lessons I learn are from them. So it's amazing, how they keep me honest, because my value is honesty, right? So that really energizes me because what they say keeps me honest. So I write, and the Jenny that you read about in the blogs, my thoughts, that's me. And that's how I show up authentically. I have people who say, "Oh, Jenny, you should, put yourself out more," and which is why I'm stepping out of the comfort zone to be a podcast guest. And I do enjoy talking about my work, and I am passionate about helping people see that you don't have to keep your values inside and hide them. Just find ways to align whatever you're doing in life with your values, and you find that you're more impactful, and yes, you're more joyful along the way.
Sure. As you look back at your career and, growing up, just going to school, and what you have achieved and where you're at today, what would you tell your younger self?
I tend to worry a lot. And I am much better now. I'm much better now. But I remember in my younger days, I really did worry a lot. And like I said earlier, I tend to analyze the worst case scenarios. And if I cannot find something to counter that worst case scenario, it adds on to my worry and anxiety. So I know if I could tell my younger self, my 15 years younger than who I am right now, it's like, don't sweat the small stuff. Everything will work out in the end. It may not work out the way you wanted, but it will work out.
Good.
Yeah.
Now, as a coach and going through coach training, and I have no doubt, I think I'm safe to say, you're just a consummate learner. You like to read, to learn absorb and figure out how can this, as a good introvert, how can I use this information, and make a difference with it. Who are some of the major thinkers that have inspired you and in this profession now as a professional coach?
I like listening to Marsha Reynolds because I find that she really goes into the deeper levels of coaching. So I'm a big fan of hers. But again, I remind myself I'm no Marsha Reynolds and I don't aspire to be one because we all bring our authentic selves when we coach. And that's why clients resonate with us. They don't come to me because they want, a Howard Fox. They come to me because they want a Jenny Toh. And likewise, it's the same for your clients as well.
Sure. We, it's funny you mentioned Marsha Reynolds. She's going to be speaking to the San Diego Professional Coaches Alliance next month. We meet the second Monday every month. So I'll send you a link if you'd like to be my guest. It's early in the morning, but she'll be there.
I know it's probably the timing, right? Let me see how that goes. But I really appreciate it. I mean, ICF is great, and WebEx as well. She's just always there, and I always follow her. I subscribe to a newsletter. So yes, now I'm a fan.
Oh yeah,
I don't stalk her, but yeah, I'm a fan. Yeah, but with all the great thinkers out there, like you said, I read their articles, I listen to what they say, and I learn from what touches me. So it's impossible to learn everything, right? We go crazy. I mean, at one point of time when I finished my coach training, I was thinking, oh, what's next? It's almost like you enjoy learning so much, you want to learn some more, right? But that's like chasing the shiny, bright objects.
Yes.
And I had to stop myself and say, okay, you need time to find out who you are as a coach before you sign up for another specialization. And I think a lot of coaches go through this. So if your listeners who are also coaches, it's fine to explore areas of growth and all that, but take that time to learn about yourself as a person and as a coach, because I went through that and I literally stopped myself from saying, okay, Jenny, you're not going to sign up for anything else now. You need to give yourself a year to really discover who you are as a coach and as a person.
I love that. I know the shiny object and, I know a couple coaches. I mean, it's like they collect certifications every year, but it is what it is.
But nothing wrong with that if you have a plan. But just don't get swept away with it. There are so many good things out there. But
right.
Just be proud of who you are as who you are.
Of course, that's wise, very wise. So, Jenny, before we kind of close down the podcast today, the interview. And I've kind of alluded to a little bit of this. I mean, you shared, Marsha Reynolds as somebody whose work that you are passionate about. Are there any other insights to go that you would like to offer our audience? Could be an article, a book, a quote, something that resonates for you personally, but you would like to share that gift to our listening audience.
When I was thinking about starting my business with and all the uncertainties, I happened to chance upon this small little book called Face Your Fears and Do It Anyway. It's by the late Susan Jeffers. It's a very easy book to read, but it's so powerful. And the title explains it. It talks about how you need to step into your fear. And once you face it, you will continue to do the things that you're fearful of. And you find that they are no longer fears that hold you back. So it's just very powerful. I encourage people to read her book.
Very good. Well, we'll definitely provide a backlink to Face Your Fears as well. Jenny, if our listeners here in the U.S. or anywhere they're located, because that's the beauty of coaching, we can do our work anywhere. So if our listeners would like to learn more about you and your work, where are the best places for them to go?
They can visit my website, which we've talked about. So it's River Life Coaching. And also you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I have my own LinkedIn page, which is under my name, Jenny Toh, or you can visit the business LinkedIn page as well, which is River Life Coaching. Either way, you can't go wrong.
Fantastic. Well, we will definitely provide the backlinks to the website, River Life Coaching, as well as your LinkedIn profile and your company page. I totally get it. As a LinkedIn guy myself, you got to have that. And Jenny, it's been an absolute pleasure to meet you. I'm so glad we met through Podmatch. And it was I love the fact that I can get on a conversation with somebody halfway around the world. and, just kind of learn about their work and what they're doing, and a lot of great insights. And it's, hearing about your passion. And it's a pleasure to introduce you to our audience. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Howard, for having me. And it's been a great conversation, and I love the things that you share as well.
Fantastic. All right, folks, we have just been chatting with Jenny Toh. She is halfway around the world in Singapore. Actually, before I even finish this, Jenny, what time is it right now?
Right now it's 8:45 in the morning on a Saturday. On a Saturday.
Okay, so I was kind of right time zone wise. It's about, I was thinking 12 to 15 hour difference. Yes. So so you're having your cup of tea in the morning, having a nice conversation with me. So thank you again. All right. So folks, Jenny Toh, she's joined her Saturday morning, start of the weekend in Singapore. And, we already know she's, as a mom, has a husband, and has a lot to do to get done on a weekends, but I'm sure she's going to take some time just to breathe a little bit and take care of herself. And that's the beauty of this coaching profession, is it's not always about the career. It's about ourselves doing what's right for us, and really in some ways just stopping and seeing where that river takes us, and enjoy the sound of it, and enjoy the peacefulness of being around the river. And that's why I love, Jenny's website, and which I do want to encourage you to go out and visit, riverlifecoaching.com, and learn more about Jenny and her work. You can also find her on LinkedIn, her profile page, as well as her company page, and we'll provide the backlinks to it. So we hope you enjoyed today's podcast. We would love if you would let us know what you thought. So whether you visit us on our website, successinsightpodcast.com. We are also on Facebook. We have the Success Insight Podcast Facebook page, as well as on LinkedIn. We also have Success Insight Podcast episodes there, as well as the major podcasting platforms, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music. You can find us on Audible, iHeartRadio, Pandora, and especially Spotify, where we are able to organize our podcast into playlists. So you can find this episode with Jenny on the Coaching and Consulting Insights playlist. And so again, anywhere we're at, we want to hear what you think. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and you'll want to come back for more. So folks, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, go out there, have a phenomenal day. Take care of yourselves, your family. Continue to wear that mask if appropriate. Practice social distancing where appropriate. Take care of yourselves and your community. And we will see you on another episode of Coaching and Consulting Insights on the Success Insight Podcast. Take care now.
Success Insight is a production of Fox Coaching and First Story Strategies. Find us online, successinsightpodcast.com.